So, hello everybody, and welcome here up at a podcast here today. A little bit different. This is a Saturday podcast here on Saturday, January 29th. I know it's a little different. Yesterday we got word that it's only going to be a quick one, 15, 20-minute video here today. But yesterday we got word that the New York Giants hired Brian Daboll as head coach, and I figured due to just scheduling and stuff, Mondays I've only been able to do 30-minute videos, which is only one topic, and Monday obviously has been for the entire NFL season, has been recapping all the NFL games that go on Sunday. And as we all know, tomorrow we got a big day in the world of the NFL. Two of the AFC and as we all know, we got the AFC and NFC championship games, which I'm really excited and looking forward to that. So Monday I was going to talk about that, and that was probably going to be the only topic on Monday. And Brian Daboll got hired yesterday as head coach, so I figured today I want to talk about him, make a quick 10, 15, 20-minute video just about Brian Daboll, just about that, not about anybody else, not about, any of the other sports, just about Brian Daboll and the Giants making their new hire, because there's a high chance of me not getting to it and talking about it up until Tuesday, and that's way too long. That is way too late to talk about it, because by Tuesday, at that point, everybody knows. Everybody, at that point, nobody really, wants to hear what you think. So I figured today I'm gonna make a quick video, upload it, get it out there, and it'll be out there for all of you guys to see. So it's gonna be quick. And not anything else to talk about. Not going to talk about any basketball. This is just strictly going to be Daboll. I did a video similar to this a couple weeks ago when I talked about the Jets and the Buccaneers. So it's going to be the same type of video, just a quick 10, 15-minute video. Probably about more 15 to 20 minutes actually than 10. But it's going to be around that range. And, so here it is. All right, so we got the news yesterday. Bills' Brian Daboll, Giants agree to contract as next head coach after Joe Judge's firing. So another name off the board now, another head coach off the board. We got word, actually, a lot of NFL coaches this week have gotten hired. Matt Eberflus got hired by the Chicago Bears, former Colts defensive coordinator. Nathaniel Hackett, former Packers offensive coordinator, gets hired by the Broncos. I'm about to say the Buccaneers, but the Broncos, which is pretty intriguing given that the possibility of Aaron Rodgers maybe now going there due to his close relationship with Nathaniel Hackett, and maybe the Broncos kind of showing that they want Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams a chance of him going with him. And now another head coach off the board is Brian Daboll, former Bills offense coordinator, who's been with the Bills for the past 4 years and been a big part of Josh Allen's development and a big part of the Bills' development, is now heading to the New York Giants, who need a complete turnover and need to change the franchise and need to change the trajectory of the franchise. And they started to do that when they hired Joe Schoen. I believe that was the right hire. He was a very good candidate, was a candidate that had some experience, at the GM level, in terms of he was the assistant GM, never had the experience at the GM level, but was up there learning from Brandon Beane, who's done just a incredible job with turning things around in Buffalo, as we all know, a team who was so bad for so many years. What was it, like an 18-year playoff drought or something like that, some wild number like that, turned it around, and now he's turned that team into one of the best teams in the league and a force to be reckoned with in the AFC, and a team that has won the AFC East back-to-back years in a row, and we assume that's going to continue to go unless if maybe New England finds a way. But the Bills are in a great position. Despite them losing last week, they still have completely turned the franchise around and turn the Bills into one of the best teams in the league, and the best team without a doubt in the AFC East, and there's no argument there. And you hire Joe Schoen, you bring him in, and now he makes the hire Brian Daboll. And I know some Giants fans, I think at this point Giants fans were down to the two Bryans, Brian Flores or Brian Daboll. It was not Dan Quinn. They didn't want him. Jim Harbaugh, the fantasy of him coming here and transforming this team like he did with the Niners, that was out of the equation. Jim Harbaugh doesn't look like he's going to get an NFL job anywhere. It looks like he's going to return to Michigan. So I guess all those rumors and all those fun possibilities are all out the window. And I said a couple days ago when the Giants hired Joe Schoen, and specifically when he had his press conference, I said I think the best hire the Giants could make is bringing in Brian Daboll. And that's exactly what they do here, right? You have two guys that have already worked together. You have Joe Schoen, was 5 years in Buffalo. You have Brian Daboll, who's 4 years in Buffalo. You have two guys who have already worked together, two guys who know each other well, two guys who know what it took in Buffalo, whereas big parts of the transformation in Buffalo. Now you bring that down, to the Giants in New York, and, a team that once was the the best team in the NFL and, the glory days and them winning and all that stuff. And the organization seems like they were getting everything right. And then it just stopped. And you've had many, many years of losing. You had bad errors with Ben McAdoo 2 years, he was out. Pat Shurmur 2 years, he was out. 3 coaches in the last 6 years. Joe Judge, the most recent victim of being fired after he goes 10-23 in his 2 years. And now you finally bring in a head coach and you bring in a GM now who finally, if you're Giants fans, and I felt the same way last year about the Jets, and this year's a big year, big offseason coming up. Finally, now if you're a Giant fan, you can finally kind of see the vision. You can finally kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. They seem like they're doing things the right way. They seem like they're hiring the right people. And look, we will never officially know until week 1 of the season and we see what Daboll and this team does. We will never officially know. You could speculate, you could say what you want right now. In January, every fan base finds a way to like the head coach. Come the season, that's when you really decide. But what I can tell you is this was the right hire for the Bills. This was the hire they needed to make. I understand people wanted Flores, and I wouldn't have had an issue with Flores, but I think the big thing with this deal and the big reason why I like this deal so much, I'm not a Giants fan, as we all know, I'm a Jets fan, and the reason why I think this is such a good deal for the Giants is because they've already worked together. They already know each other. They're going to believe in the same thing. And they're going to take, I think, a lot what Buffalo did, and they're going to try to implement it into the Giants. And now it's not official yet, but it seems like Ken Dorsey, who was the passing game coordinator with Buffalo, also under, the staff of Sean McDermott and all that stuff during the, the run that they've had these past couple seasons of being really good. He looks like, not official, but it looks like both sides are working hard towards getting Ken Dorsey in here to be an offensive coordinator. And for a Giants offense that has been so bad for the past, 6 years, has been terrible, and Daniel Jones hasn't been good, and he's been very, he hasn't been good enough. And, with all that being said, now you go ahead and say, you bring in offensive minds, you bring in a guy who completely was a big part of transforming that Bills offense and that Bills team, made Josh, was a big reason why Josh Allen is the quarterback he is today. I mean, he's a huge reason why Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and I think one of the best dual threat quarterbacks we've ever seen in this league, and we've seen in a really long time. So you bring in an offensive mind, you bring in a guy who's seen success in Buffalo, was a big part of the success. You bring in a guy who's already worked with the GM, so they're going to be lockstep, they're going to believe, and they're going to try to push towards the same exact thing, and that's building a new foundation, making, culture shift, right? All that stuff included. That's why I think this is a really good move, and that's what the Giants here are getting in Daboll. They're getting a guy that, offensive-minded coach, can really help a quarterback. And you know what the Giants need? Daniel Jones needs help. He needs help. He needs an offense around him. He needs coaches that can truly elevate him because he has not had that. He did not have that under Joe Judge. What he had under Joe Judge was just a bad offense, bad offensive line, and just awful, brutal offense. And Jason Garrett did a terrible job for a guy who was a solid coach in Dallas, never got them anywhere, but was a solid coach, to go to the Giants in the way that they were one of the worst offenses in the league. And that's why I felt so much, too, that the Giants needed to hire an offensive-minded coach. Because when your biggest struggle is the offense, and you bring in an offensive-minded coach, that can sometimes that in itself can just automatically, without even doing anything in the roster, elevate the team just a little bit. Because you bring in a guy that truly knows offense. You're not bringing in one of these other coordinators and hoping, this can do it. Because the big thing is now is, and Joe Shane did say, he did say that they're committed to Daniel Jones. He's also not going to stand up there and say Daniel Jones is not our quarterback. But now you wonder, what does Brian Daboll want? I think ultimately Brian Daboll probably does want Daniel Jones as the quarterback, because if Joe Shane wants that, you're going to imagine that the coach is going to need to want that as well if they want to work lockstep and be successful. But I could see too, man, now with this hire, the Bills went out and drafted Josh Allen with the 7 overall pick, right? That Josh Allen coming out of college, when you had quarterbacks like Sam Darnold and Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield all in that draft, coming from big-time schools, well, Louisville not that big, but still bigger than Wyoming, they drafted a quarterback from Wyoming that not many people knew much about, wasn't playing up against really that good of talent, and a guy who was really, Wyoming's a small-name school. It wasn't your premier Alabama, Clemson, USC type school where they're producing players year in and year out. It's a small school. It's a small football school. They took a risk on him, and look what he's turned into. So you wonder now, maybe does Brian Daboll and Joe Shane make the decision, hey, We're going to go off to one of these smaller name quarterbacks in the draft and maybe see if we could turn them into what Josh Allen's turned into. Who knows? All I can tell you this, too, is they're going to surround, if they do keep Daniel Jones, Daboll's going to want weapons around him. Joe Shane's going to want weapons around him. What they did to Allen in Buffalo was surround him with Stephon Diggs, bring in Beasley, Gabriel Davis, all those guys, right? They surrounded him with weapons. And I expect Daboll and Joe Shane to want to do the same, bring in weapons. And this is a hire where it just goes to show you how much they want to see this offense take a leap, because this has been an offense that's been terrible. It's been one of the worst, historically bad. So you bring in Daboll, you bring in a guy that made a huge impact in Buffalo, huge impact in Josh Allen's development, 4 years there, third-ranked offense in the NFL. You bring him into one of the worst offenses in the NFL, see what he can do with, Daniel Jones, see what they do at the quarterback position. Whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Daniel Jones or somebody else, build around him. And you just know that Daboll and Joe Shane are going to build around whoever's at quarterback and are going to try to build the best offense possible. Because what this offense has been for the past couple of seasons has been an absolute disgrace from what it once was. And you bring an offensive-minded coach, and that's exactly the move the Giants needed to make. And that's what separated, I think, ultimately in the coaching interviews, I think that's what separated Brian Flores and Joe Judge. Or Joe Judge, I keep saying Joe Judge. Brian Daboll. Flores, defensive-minded coach. Daboll, offensive-minded coach, and already worked with Joe Shane. And that's huge. Whenever you get that combo, that's huge. You get two guys that have already worked together, and two guys that know they were inside in Buffalo. They were, internally, they knew what it took to turn an organization that was so bad into an organization that's one of the best, into a team that's one of the best in the league. And the Giants right now, although they've had their histories, rich and all that, they've been so bad for the past couple of years. They, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll know what it takes to do it, to make a turn, turn things around. And I think they're going to take a lot what they saw in Buffalo and they're going to try to implement it with the Giants. And that's another positive too. I really like this hire. If you're a Giant fan, you should be very happy about this hire. I've said it. I said it a couple days when they hired Joe Shane. I said Brian Daboll should be the head coach. I said the Giants need to hire Brian Daboll. That was my pick for head coach. I'm not a Giant fan like you guys know, but that was who I think the Giants should have hired. And they did, and they got him. Just some kind of Brian Daboll resume stuff. I pulled this off of the Giants, posted some stuff, and also just doing some research on my own. He spent 21 years in the NFL, so he's been around the league. It's not like this is his first time ever. He's been around the league 4 years with the Bills. So out of the 21 years, he's with the first 4 with the Bills. Last season was the AP's NFL Assistant Coach of the Year in 2020. So a huge part of the turnaround there and what that offense has turned into. He joined the Bills in 2018. He's been there for 4 years. So he joined them, with Allen, and he's been with Allen every step away, and you see what Allen's turned into. And he's been an offensive coordinator for the Bills, Browns, Chiefs, and Dolphins. So four different teams as an offensive coordinator. And an interesting stat here, I always sometimes pull these little things out. He was actually the quarterback's coach for the New York Jets from 2007 to 2008. So, kind of a little bit of a funny stat there. The Jets actually had him. If you look back on it, I don't want to gear this to the Jets, but just to kind of keep this here, revolving around New York football, the Jets have had some random guys come in, like Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick, Brian Daboll. Have had some random coaches come in and coach, and it's kind of funny when you look back on it, with some of these, But yeah, anyway, either way, quarterback's coach for the Jets from 2007, 2008. Thought that was interesting. And he's with the Patriots. He's won, I forget. He won 5 Super Bowls with the Patriots, I think. Was a Patriots assistant for over a decade. So much experience winning. And also, he was the Alabama offensive coordinator in 2017, his only season as offensive coordinator in Alabama. And I believe that was the year they won the national championship. So he was a part of that. Part of Alabama, part of Nick Saban's staff, although Alabama goes through offensive coordinators daily, it seems. Every year they got somebody new in. This past season it was Bill O'Brien, but he was the offense coordinator as well as Alabama. So, very minimal, but was, offensive coordinator with Bama, and he spent 21 years in the NFL. So Bills Brian Daboll, Giants agree to contract as next head coach after Joe Judge is firing. So let's read this quick article here, then I'll finish off the short podcast. Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator Brian Daboll has accepted the New York Giants' offer to become their next head coach. The team announced on Friday. Earlier in the evening, Ian Rappaport of NFL Network reported that the Giants were working to hire Daboll as their new head coach, and that the two sides will attempt to a deal that would reunite the offensive coordinator with Joe Shane, the ex-Bills assistant general manager who took the Giants GM job earlier this month. The Daboll was considered a finalist for the open Miami Dolphins head coaching job, but SNY's Ralph Fasciano reported Friday that the Finns no longer accepted the Bills offensive coordinator to be available when they began their second round of interviews. Daboll beat out a candidate group for the Giants job that included ex-Dolphins head coach Brian Flores and Bills defensive coordinator assistant head coach Leslie Frazier. He replaces Joe Judge, who Big Blue parted ways with after 2 seasons and a terrible record of 10-23. This move has been a long time coming after Daboll helped transform Buffalo's offense. The Bills didn't go above and beyond on that side of the ball in 2019. They finished 24th in yards, 330.2, and 23rd in points, 19.6. And Football Outsiders ranked them the 22nd in offense officially. Still, Daboll was generating buzz as a possible candidate to fill any of the coaching vacancies across the NFL. The 46-year-old stayed in Buffalo, though, which proved to be a smart move. Josh Allen enjoyed a massive leap in his 3rd season, and he earned his first Pro Bowl nod. He threw for 4,544 yards and 37 touchdowns, and his completion percentage soared from 58.8 to 69.2. Stephon Diggs also led the NFL in receptions, 127, and receiving yards, 1,535, while hauling in 8 touchdown grabs. I hate to give him so much credit because I didn't want anyone to steal him from me. Diggs told reporters of Daboll in December 2020. So, look, he was well respected around the locker room. Diggs liked him. Allen liked him. Getting some high praise from some of the best in the league. As a team, the Bills tied for second in yards, 396.4, and had sole possession of second in points, 31.3. They fell back to earth a bit in 2021, piling up 381.9 yards per game and finishing 10th in offensive efficiency at Football Outsiders. That slight step backward coincided with the appeared to be a rift growing between Daboll and head coach Sean McDermott. There was a little bit of a rumors with that. I think it could have part of it could have been, I think Daboll wanted to get a head coaching job, but still, top 10 in offense, up there in yards, and still turned the offense into one of the best in the league. Still, fans of the franchise haven't seen an attack this lethal since the early 1990s when Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, and Andre Reed led the way. A 47-17 victory over the New England Patriots in the AFC wildcard round proved the offense's ability to score and rolled up 482 yards and 7 touchdowns. The Bills followed that up with 36 points, 5 touchdowns, and 422 yards, and a 42-36 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in AFC divisional round. So on and so forth here. This is kind of just getting into his time with the Bills. And I'll read the final paragraph here, 2 paragraphs actually. While many Giants fans have given up on Daniel Jones, the team may be willing to extend the 2019 first-round pick one more chance. Jones' contract has one more guaranteed year remaining, and working under Daboll could get his development back on track. In the event New York is willing to cut bait on Jones and use one of its top 10 picks on a quarterback, that will be put on Daboll to put him in a position to thrive. No, Daboll will have to put that quarterback in the right position to thrive right out of the gate. So, look. Well, I think the Daniel Jones thing's still up in the air. I don't think his job's completely safe. I don't think his job is not, I don't think it's completely safe. I also don't think the Giants have already made a decision to move on from him. Joe Shane seems like he's settled on keeping him. I could very well see the Bills saying, look, we're going to keep you another year, and it could be one of these things where it's kind of like this. You keep him, you bring him in Daboll's staff, you build around him a little bit more, and if he doesn't show any progress, you get rid of him next season, you have a better quarterback class. If he shows progress, you pick up his 5th-year option, and if he continues to show project look, you got your guy. So that's, I think, the approach the Giants probably will take, but you also will learn a little bit more as the offseason goes on. But, like I said, he's getting some high praise. He had a lot of success in Buffalo, and I think for a while now he's wanted a head coach job. He's wanted to be a head coach. He's wanted to, get this opportunity. And look, there's not many better opportunities out there. The New York Giants, one of the biggest markets in the NFL, one of the biggest markets in sports, a team that was once so good, hasn't been good in a very long time now, it seems. So, Giants get their guy, and if you're a Giant fan, you got to hope that, you got to hope that this is it. You got to hope this is not another 2-year process of pain and then restarting. But look, and you know how I am with the Giants, I can be harsh on them at times. I'm a Jet fan, so at times I do go hard on the Giants, and I'll bash them, and you heard me all season long bashing both the Jets and the Giants. But this is ultimately what I think. I think the Giants did get the right guy. This was the right hire. However it plays out, this was the right move, because I think he was the best option available, and for a team that needs to be better on offense specifically, and a quarterback that's still a question mark, and if you want to transform him and take Daniel Jones to the next level, Brian Daboll is one of the best ones out there to help him do that. So Giants find their new head coach in Brian Daboll. All right, so that will do it for the podcast. Quick one, like I said, only 20 minutes. Was able to get it done before all the college basketball and all that craziness happens. Today, Kentucky on later, which is exciting. I'm pumped up for that game. And, that will do it. So, hopefully you enjoyed it. It was a very quick video, only about 20, we're coming up here on 21 minutes. So, quick video today. That will do it. Like you all know, besides this, no more podcasts this weekend unless if something crazy happens in the world of sports. But I will see you all back here on Monday. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.